His likeness. Psalm 18. Don't gasp if you're seeing the length of it. I'll come in under an hour here. So stay with me. To the chief musician, a psalm of David, to the servant of the Lord who spoke to the Lord the words of this song on the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all of his enemies and the hand of Saul. So David is looking back upon how God delivered him from his enemies and delivered him from Saul, and it's just a thankful, he just looks back, and as he looks back, this thanksgiving just rushes out of his heart towards the Lord. That's one of the great things about being a Christian. So often we can be in turmoil about what's happening in the present tense in our life, but that looking back at what the Lord has done, never are we called to look back and see our sin. We just are to look back and see His blood, see His forgiveness, and see the great things that He has done in our lives. And so David looks back and he just celebrates how good God has been to him. He said, I will love you, O Lord, my strength. And notice how he describes Him over and over. He calls the Lord my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I trust, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. This is what David knew God to be. He knew Him to be all of those things. And there's only one way we can know God to be all of those things, and that is to be put in difficult situations. Otherwise, it's just kind of dealing in the theoretical. But, he knew Him. He had a gnosko, a knowledge by experience that God was those things because God had been those things in his life, which means God's going to constantly put us in situations that are bigger than ourselves. They'll be overwhelming to us so we can discover His strength. His strength is made perfect in weakness. And he said, so shall I be saved from my enemies. The pangs of death encompassed me. The floods of ungodliness made me afraid. The sorrows of Sheol surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. I cried out to my God. He heard my voice from His temple, speaking of heaven, and my cry came before Him, even to His ears. And so, where was all of this learned in terms of who God was and what God was? In the depth of that trial. And then he speaks of God's power that he knew firsthand. Verse 7, then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the hills also quaked and were shaken because God was angry. Smoke went up from His nostrils and devouring fire came from His mouth. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also and came down with darkness under His feet, and He rode upon a cherub and flew upon the wings of the wind, and He made darkness His secret place. His canopy around Him was dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. From the brightness before Him, His thick clouds passed with hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the Most High uttered His voice, hailstones and coals of fire. He sent out His arrows, and He scattered the foe, lightnings in abundance, and He vanquished them. And then the channels of waters were seen, and the foundations of the world were uncovered. At your rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils, He sent from above. He took me. He drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. And they confronted me in the day of my calamity. But the Lord was my support, and He also brought me out into a broad place, that is a safe place, and He delivered me because He delighted in me. How does He delight in us today? We are accepted in the Beloved, accepted in His Son. He delights in us because of our simple faith in His Son. And so David speaks of God's power and how he had experienced it. Verse 20, the Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands. He has recompensed me, for I have kept the ways of the Lord and have not wickedly departed from my God. And so David's bringing forth his innocence. For all his judgments were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me. I was also blameless before him, and I kept myself from my iniquity. And therefore the Lord has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands in his sight. With the merciful, you'll show yourself merciful. With the blameless man, you'll show yourself blameless. With the pure, you'll show yourself pure. And with the devious, that is, perhaps Saul, you'll show yourself shrewd. For you will save the humble people, but will bring down haughty looks. For you will light my lamp. The Lord my God will enlighten my darkness. For by you I can run against a troop, and by my God I can leap over a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven. Again, his word is tried and true. And so God not only protected David, but then gave him the victory. For who is God except the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of deer. And the feet of deer, they're sure, aren't they? Even on the high places which he sets us on. He sets me on the high places. He teaches my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation. Your right hand has held me up. Your gentleness has made me great. You enlarged my path under me so that my feet did not slip. And so, a lot of these things that God was in David's life and a lot of things that God was doing in David's life, he wasn't aware of it till after the trial. Isn't that the truth? It's so much of the Christian life, it's not till afterwards that we then see, what God was doing all along, and then we see it clear, and now David sees it clear. I've pursued my enemies and overtaken them, neither did I turn back again till they were destroyed. I've wounded them so they were not able to rise. They have fallen under my feet, for you have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued me under me those who rose up against me, and you have also given me the necks of my enemies, so that I destroyed those who hated me. They cried out, but there was none to save them, even to the Lord, but he did not answer them. And then I beat them as fine as dust before the wind. And so David ended up established. They ended up, blowing in the wind. Oh, okay. He said, I cast them out like dirt in the streets. And he says, you have delivered me from the strivings of the people. You have made me the head of the nations. A people I have not known shall serve me. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. The foreigners submit to me. The foreigners fade away and become frightened from their hideouts. And now David praises the Lord for all that God has done in his life. The Lord lives. Earlier it looked like, God, are you dead? Are you, hello? And now, now he looks back and he says, the Lord lives. Blessed be my rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. So that celebration of God's power in his life. It is God who avenges me and subdues the peoples under me. He delivers me from my enemies. You also lift me up above those who rise against me. You have delivered me from the violent man, and therefore I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the Gentiles, and sing praises to your name. Great deliverance he gives to his king, and shows mercy to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. It's not a bad thing every once in a while just to sit down and to meditate upon how far the Lord has brought us and how faithful he's been. And that's what David does. He just stops and he looks back, but he looks back at what the Lord has done. And out of that, all of this praise, comes forth. So that beautiful retrospect of David that solicited that praise out of his heart. Well, we'll stop there tonight, and we'll pick it up, Lord willing, in Psalm 19, next time we get together. So if the worship team come forward and lead us in worship as we meditate on these great themes that we've looked at tonight.